And today has been a big day for the new Patriotic Party, particularly in the Ashanti region. They wanted to do one thing, to galvanize their base with the outdooring of Dr. Nat'l Pempe, who today has finally been shown to the rest of the world, but also to the grassroots of the party in the Ashanti region. It's been a very packed day. Started at the Mencha Palace, where they had to first take him to go and introduce him to the Santehino Tumfosetu II, who made some very interesting pronouncements indeed about the man who has now become the party's running mate on this ticket for the December 7 elections. We're going to unpacking everything for you. For those who missed this, because this happened around the time that many of you were still in your offices, and so may have missed quite a bit. Tonight, we're going to unpack that for you, so you follow where the NDC, where the NPP believes they are going, and whether or not this ticket sends them there to break the 8. So let's assess that. Let's assess that pretty briefly. And one of the few things we need to do first of all, establish the basis. Assuming you just dropped from Mars and didn't know Nat'l Pempe, we know that he is, of course, 56 years old. In the scheme of things, many say he will rub off the youth very well. He's the MP for Mencha between the 2009 and 2013. But then, of course, it was then carved into two, Mencha South, Mencha North, and he became the MP for Mencha South between 2013 to now. But again, the thing that we need to analyze, and we'll do so pretty shortly, is that he head-to-head between himself and General Pokwajiman, who is the running mate to the NDC. They've both been education ministers before. We'll assess their competence when it comes to that area and how they performed, so you can assess, head-to-head, how they have done in their respective roles, because both of them come into this role with their own track record. We'll do that in the education sector, but he's also been an energy minister. And one of the things that he touted today when he spoke for the first time is the fact that he has a superintendent over Dumso, comparing himself to the previous administration at the time of economic crisis, which he believes to be one of his biggest trump cards going into this election, as he's going to be campaigning together with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Now, if you look at the story of his performance in that particular constituency, which is important, by the way, if you're going to be on a ticket, you must have your own constituency. This is his constituency, and this is the numbers and what the numbers say about how well he's done. One of the things that we've observed is this performance in the last elections in 2020 and what he did there. Slight dip from the previous year in 2016 from 86% down to 84% there. But he holds the title in terms of record performance in percentage terms for Mencha, a stronghold of the party, by the way. If you come to the year 2016, when the tsunami swept across the country and swept the NDC out of power. And so the key question then becomes, what's momentum on his side? Consider that he was a slight dip there in 2020. Well, that is a story that we wait to see what happens, because he's not going to be on the ticket anymore now that he is now the running mate for the party. The thing, though, to note, and this for me is the big picture. The big picture here is a story of what they do in the Ashanti region. They have put him on a ticket fundamentally to galvanize that base in the Ashanti region. This is the data they've looked at to come to that conclusion, we believe. Because what this shows is each time the party has done anything below 70 or below, they lose the national elections. And you see that all the way from where we start from in 1996, where they came in at 65%, they lost the national elections. Even in 2020, it was only in the second round where they showed the dominance and crossed the line that they climbed up into 80% in the Ashanti region. In the first round, they were in 74% in the Ashanti region. What happened? They didn't quite get that victory they required. When they crossed into 80s, then they secure the victory. If we come to 2004, same story, 76%, they win the national elections. If we come to 2008, again, they lost the elections that year. Why? As you see in the Ashanti region there, they had 72% of the votes, and that tells you a story there. Immediately, you don't hit the 75 plus mark, you are in trouble. If you're an NPP supporter, the NPP executive, Bawumia, you're watching this very closely. And then what happens again in the year after, in 2012? 2012, you see the story there in Ashanti region. They get the 76%. NDC climbs up to 28%. They lose elections. And what did they do? They believe they were cheated after that particular elections and so went to the Supreme Court there. That there is an interesting one indeed for the party itself. And they still will tell you that they believe that they won that particular elections that year. But that is a story there of 2012. That is a story that doesn't support the trends. But again, if you move to 2016, they climbed about 76% and they won the elections. Again, you come to 2020, they're in the 72%. We see the 2020 elections as one of the outliers because a lot of things happen in 2020 that doesn't follow the trend. For example, you win in the Greater Accra region, you should win the national elections. You win in the Central region, you should win national elections. Again, it didn't happen, right? First time we have a hung parliament. So a lot of things happen in 2020 that doesn't follow the trend, and one of those is that. So what do you want to do here? You want to get into, today we saw the target they've set themselves, a target that Matthew Pempe himself articulated, which is his target. He's going to work with the regional executive to deliver that. 85% is what they want. They know this, and they want to climb there. And they fundamentally want to deploy him to get them there. My guess will analyze whether he delivers that for them on the back of what we've seen him do today, and whether he does that for them. So this is important, and that is why they're putting him there. He's going to, we believe, as far as the strategy is concerned, in this year's elections, if you have an opponent ticket, you're going to deploy him in your strongholds, strong regions, strong constituencies, because there, people naturally will vote for the NPP anyway, and you want them to be galvanized. If you're thinking about staying at home and not going out to vote, you want to put him there so he can get them to vote. He may not rub up well with the middle-class floating voter, and so you don't want to put him in a place like Greater Accra. You don't want to put him in a place like Central region. You want to put him in a place like Ashanti region and in the Eastern region and elsewhere in Bono and other regions where you're strong in. So that's the key thing we noticed today, and that's why they put him there. But it comes in, I'm talking about the running mates on the back of a long history of NPP selection of running mates in this Ashanti Northern ticket, which is exactly what the Bawumia is replicating, except that now he is the man on the ballot, as in the presidential candidate, and NAPO from the Ashanti region. So they reverse the roles pretty slightly, because you see Edu Bahin there, who obviously hails from that same region, deciding to go with a Hassan there. And then you come to the story of J. Kufuor himself. He then decides to go for the very first time with the because they have formed an alliance, which was an alliance that he needed to form. An attempt to win the elections didn't quite happen, and that is why he selected him not from the northern region, which the tradition says he should have. But when it came to 2020, the year they actually won the elections, he decides to go with Aliyu Muhammad there, 2020 to 2024. So that tells you a story very quickly. And that is exactly what he did when he got the nod to stand by himself. He went in for the man who now makes the decision to go with somebody from the Ashanti region, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And so this is a story of what we see over time in the NPP. The first time they have somebody from the northern region, he decides it was settled. Let's go back to the Ashanti region. Let's keep this particular trend going. And that is why we've seen him there. The NPP knows that they cannot win in national elections without the Ashanti region. And that is a key thing that they've been trying to do. And if you go back to the current president himself, he's not from there, but of course he's in a chim. But again, in nominating somebody, they look at this, I can take it, and they want to balance that up with somebody from the north. So either you're in a county coming from the Ashanti region, you have to balance it with somebody from the north. Now we have somebody from the north, you want to balance it with somebody from the Ashanti region. And that the reasons why they did that is what is in the numbers in the Ashanti region. And then you look at head-to-head, something we promised that we will do. Because fundamentally, NAPO will try and negate the strength of, first of all, John Dramani Mahama, but also Jane Opoku-Agyeman. And because both of them have a track record in the education ministry, let's look at some of the key indicators you're looking at to try and assess who maybe may come on top when it comes to the floating voter, if at all NAPO can appeal to that particular class of voters. And look at that. Look at the issue of children out of school, which is a key thing if you want to look at education minister and your ability to keep children in school. And the time that Jane Opoku-Agyeman was in office in 2014, that children out of school, the number was 720,000. The time that she left, it was 791. So it climbed up slightly. Managed to bring it down to 750. 4,000 children out of school, but climbed back up. So that isn't a great record as far as that is concerned, because at least what you meet, you want to bring it down consistently, right? Children out of school. It's something that you really want to tackle. And then you come to NAPO. NAPO then means, some may say that, you know, Jane Opoku-Agyemang's credit is the 362,000 children out of school that NAPO met. But that's what he met in 2017. And then increases a bit, drops in 2019, and then it's climbed up again to 566,000. That, again, you can make of it what you will, but it's an important indicator. But another thing that we saw we should do is government expenditure on education. And you see that under Jane, the government was spending quite a bit. And this is a percent of the government expenditure. Was spending quite a bit on education, right? Up until the time that she left office, they were spending 22%. NAPO's time, we're talking about 13% the last time we checked. That isn't quite good, especially for a government that was implementing the free SHS. You think they will be spending far more on that particular part of the economy. Education, again, it's about how much money they both have to play with, right? And that tells the story there. And then you look at the subject of the school enrollment, which, by the way, is NAPO's biggest, I guess, thing he's going to point to in terms of what he did with the free SHS. One of the fundamental successes of free SHS is increased enrollment. The question has always been, what about quality? But look at that. 73% climb, right? Jane only manages 67%, right? And he will tell you that that's increasing access, which is a very, very important indicator in education. You don't want to leave any child behind, and this is really what NAPO comes into this picture with. And that is one of his biggest achievements he implemented, one of the most important consequential policies of our time indeed. And the final one I'll look at before I sit down for a conversation with my guest is the subject of trained teachers in primary education, which is, again, very important. Where NAPO was at the time, the last time we checked, in 2020, when the data was available, he was at 67%, right? And you have Jane there, leaving in 2016 at 56%. Now, so you can look at that in terms of teachers in primary school, trained teachers. He increased it systematically over time. Jane fluctuated slightly, but also increased it from what she met in 53 to 56%, right? But NAPO meets 55, takes it to 67%. So that is quite good also. Listen, this is head-to-head. Now that the campaign is starting, and it started already, now both tickets are settled, these things will matter when they hit the campaign trail and begin to talk. At least we wanted to show you to you before we sit for a conversation. My guests are seated. We're going to get into specifics. What did the Otumfuo say about NAPO? Fascinating stuff. If you missed it earlier in the day, stay with me.